Hey guys, before we start tonight's story, let's all take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale. Maybe you're lying in bed. Maybe you're on the couch after a long day. Or maybe you're multitasking doing the dishes. Doom scrolling slowly disassociating. However, you found this moment. It's yours now. So dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan. Get cozy, because we're going to take a little trip. A very dry, very dusty trip. Tonight, you're going somewhere warm. Too warm. And not warm like summer vacation. Warm like my brain is cooking in my skull and my sweat is sweating. Welcome to ancient Egypt. No, not the postcard version. Not the golden sarcophagi and glamorous Cleopatra fantasies. You're not royalty. You don't get a tomb or even a coffin. You don't even get a name history will remember. Because tonight, you are a no-name peasant. Just one of millions who made Egypt great by dying quietly behind the scenes. And guess what? It's your lucky day. You get to live one full, glorious, punishingly real day in this 3,000-year-old hellscape. Or at least try to. Let's see how long you last. You wake up to darkness, not the soft, sleepy kind. The inside of a clay hut kind. A kind of darkness that smells like mildew and dirt, and last night's boiled lentils, assuming you had any. Your bed, if you can call it that, is a worn mat woven from reeds that feel like they were designed by someone with a personal vendetta against comfort. Your blanket is a wool scrap that itches with more passion than your average locust swarm. Also, it's crawling with lice. And yes, they've been breeding overnight. You scratch. You regret scratching. The sores are raw again. And one of your fingernails is black. That's probably fine. You sit up head spinning because you stood too fast and because you haven't had anything resembling food in 12 hours. Your stomach gurgles like a dying ox. Outside your door, if hole in the wall covered by a basket counts as a door, you can already hear the others stirring. Grunts, coughs, hacking mucus into the dawn. The same chorus of misery that opens every morning like a funeral chant. You take a moment to assess the damage. Your body sore, your mouth dry, your dignity somewhere at the bottom of the Nile. You stretch, or at least you try to, but your left shoulder is stuck again. Dislocated 2 harvests ago. Never healed right. You were supposed to rest it. But who has time for that? When there's flax to cut and canals to dredge. You rub your temples. Headaches are normal now. You don't know if it's the dehydration or the lead dust or the constant proximity to death. Probably all 3. And still, the day hasn't even started. You shuffle outside. Immediately, your foot lands in something wet. You hope it's water. It's not. One of the goats has clearly enjoyed its morning bowel movement right in your path. You wipe your foot on a rock, which is somehow both sharper than a knife and less effective than a leaf. Then you glance up at the sky, if you can call the grey-brown smog drifting over the horizon a sky. The sun is already rising arrogant as ever. It hasn't even reached full height and you're already sweating. There is no cool breeze. There is only air that tastes like sand and old onions. Breakfast, if you can call it that. You wander over to the communal fire pit, just some ashes in a dented patch of earth, and accept the small bowl handed to you by your neighbor, who smells like boiled cabbage and has only one eyebrow. Inside the bowl gruel, not oatmeal, not porridge, gruel, made of barley husks and probably a rat tail or 2. It's lukewarm and tastes like someone washed their feet in it. You eat it anyway. You're starving. And somehow, you're still starving when the bowl is empty. One of the older women offers you a second helping from the bottom of the pot. But there's a suspicious hair stuck to it, and you pretend to be full. Your stomach knows better. You consider using the latrine before work, but then you remember there is no latrine. just a spot behind the acacia tree near the edge of the village where flies gather like it's their version of brunch. You hold it in. Again, you've been holding it in for weeks. That probably explains the cramping and the bloating, and the strange pulsing pain in your lower abdomen. Whatever, you're still alive. For now, across the way, a child is screaming. Either someone died, or they stubbed their toe. Same volume either way. A man walks by with a bandaged arm leaking something yellow. He nods at you. You nod back. That's the closest thing to affection you'll get all day. You trudge back inside for your tools. A sickle made of sharpened copper that's so dull it might as well be a spoon. A satchel to carry flax or stones or anything. The overseer decides is your problem today. You wrap your scarf around your head. It stinks like sweat and river mold, but it keeps the sun off your ears mostly. Then you whisper a quick prayer under your breath, not because you're pious, but because you're desperate. You don't believe the gods care, but just in case. You mutter to Osiris, to Anubis, to anyone who might spare you from a heat stroke or a wasp sting in the eye. Then you step out into the blazing nothingness, the workday looming like a sandstorm. You thought that was bad. Wait for the next part. You hit the fields just as the sun starts to scald the dirt into cracked pottery. And there's no shade, no cloud, no illusion of mercy. Just you and dozens of other half-starved bodies bent like parentheses over rows of flax. And your job is simple. Harvest fast, don't faint, don't complain. And if your sickle slips and slices your thigh open, bleed quietly and keep moving. The overseer doesn't like noise, especially not from peasants with poor discipline and lazy posture, and the audacity to have bones that break under pressure, which unfortunately, you do. Your left ankle is still swollen from last week when you tripped in a drainage ditch trying to dodge a scorpion, and the skin hasn't stopped peeling since. But sure, you'll just walk it off, right? Because that's what strong workers do, and you are nothing if not barely functional. You squat in the dirt, begin hacking at the flax, your arms already protesting, your spine popping like a roasting grasshopper, and the sweat is instant, aggressive, pouring down your temples and into your eyes, burning, with the stinging joy of salt and sun and suffering, and still somehow you're moving too slowly. A shadow looms over you. It's the overseer on his high horse, or more accurately, his small donkey that smells like fermented cabbage, and he grunts something about efficiency, then swings his stick lazily through the air just above your back, not quite hitting, but close enough to raise every hair on your neck, and you murmur an apology, even though your mouth is dry and your lips are cracked and you can barely swallow. But speaking is safer than silence. Silence looks like defiance, and defiance gets you tied to a post for public correction. And you've seen correction. It involves rope and flies and skin turning purple, and sometimes people don't come back from it. But hey, at least it's not boring. The sun climbs higher, and you stop pretending to keep track of time. There's no point. The hours bleed together in a blur of dust and motion, and muscle cramps, your hands. Blister, then bleed, then blister again. The cycle of glory, and one of the younger boys next to you starts coughing. Blood. Not metaphorically, actual blood. Red and bubbly, and no one stops working. Not even his mother. Because stopping means punishment. And besides, people cough blood. Sometimes it's just part of life. Maybe he'll live, maybe he won't. You shovel another armload of flax into your bag and try not to pass out when your knees lock up. For the third time, you don't remember when you last drank water. Was it yesterday? The day before the Nile is too far and too full of leeches and fish waste and dead frogs anyway, and the village cistern hasn't been cleaned in weeks. And when it rains, which it rarely does, it smells like donkey sweat and roof rot. Lunchtime comes technically, but don't get excited. It's not a break, it's a change of pace. The overseer throws a handful of dried lentils into the dirt and tells you all to have at it. And you're too tired to care about dignity. So you kneel in the mud with 10 others and grab your share, maybe 6 lentils and a pebble, which you spit out unless you're desperate for minerals. And then you chew through the grittiness and pretend it's meat, you tell yourself. It's crunchy for a reason, maybe some kind of regional recipe. You swallow hard and chase it with spit, because spit is the only liquid you have. And then someone finds a weevil in their scoop, and someone else finds half a dead lizard, and everyone shrugs, because at least it's protein. You lean back on your haunches for 6 seconds. That's all you get. 6 glorious seconds of not bending over, not lifting, not scraping your palms against copper tools, dulled by centuries of overuse. And then it's back to it, and the sun is now directly above, and it's laughing at you. The afternoon drags like a funeral procession, slow and full of dread. The kind of heat that presses down like guilt. You're hallucinating slightly, seeing gods in the clouds. Or maybe that's just the salt crusting over your eyelashes. And when the wind kicks up, it's not refreshing. It's hot and full of sand. Sand in your teeth, your ears, your shirt, your soul. And then comes the smell, the sweet, rotting stench of something dead. Probably an animal. Hopefully not a co-worker. You glance toward the reeds and see a lump, unmoving, bloated. Maybe it was a goat. Maybe it was the last guy who collapsed in the sun, and no one had the strength to move him. Either way, it's someone else's problem now. Yours is the endless field, the weight of the sack on your back, the ache in your jaw from grinding your teeth every time the overseer whistles his stupid little whip tune. Eventually the overseer announces it's time to clean up, which is code for sort the hall. So you drag your sack to the sorting pile, fingers trembling, vision blurring, and you try to act normal. Not too slow, not too obvious about your twitching leg, or the fact that your left eye has been leaking something yellow since noon. And you know, if you don't meet the quota, he'll dock your ration tomorrow. Not that you got a full one today, but even half a barley cake is better than none. So you suck in your gut, puff up your chest, fake energy, fake competence, fake everything, and pray no one notices that your knee just gave out, that you're now sort of kneeling, sort of slumped like a puppet whose strings are being cut slowly, deliberately. Someone cracks a joke, something about the pharaoh having softer hands than his cat, and a few people chuckle nervously, eyes darting. But the overseer doesn't hear or pretends not to. And it's the closest thing to joy anyone's felt since the last flood. And for a moment, just a moment, you let yourself laugh too, until you remember that laughing makes you breathe harder, and breathing hurts. Now your chest is tight, and your throat feels like it's made of woven straw, and you cough, and it tastes like copper. And you don't look at the blood, you just swallow and keep your head down. You thought that was bad. Wait for what the sun does next. The workday doesn't end. It just stops abruptly, like a fever breaking, or a string snapping inside your spine. The overseer barks something about sun angle and temple curfew, and just like that, you're released. Not because your suffering matters, but because he has a dinner to catch, and probably a second wife to yell at. And as the other workers peel themselves off the ground like flattened figs, you realize your arms no longer want to bend your fingers, won't unclench from the sickle handle. Your back is humming like a beehive made of rage and cartilage. but congratulations, you're still standing or wobbling. Same thing, so you gather what little remains of your body and start the long, dragging shuffle back toward the village. Every step grinding bone against blister, your sandals worn so thin, they might as well be wet leaves strapped to your feet. And the ground is still radiating heat, like it's angry you dared walk on it. The sky's going orange now, in that weird apocalyptic way it does, right before the sandstorms roll in. But you don't have the energy to care. You just pray quietly, pointlessly, that your hut hasn't collapsed, that your straw mat hasn't been commandeered by snakes, that maybe, just maybe, someone remembered to boil water. But no, of course not, because you're back now, back to your wonderful one-room palace of damp earth walls, half a ceiling, and the unmistakable musk of mildew body odor and goat pee. And the moment you duck inside, you're greeted by the soft pitter-patter of beetles in the corner and the dry rasp of something definitely not dead in the straw pile. You don't investigate. You just pretend it's a friendly spirit. Maybe the ghost of a rat you accidentally stepped on last year, and you lower yourself inch by inch onto the mat, every joint whining like a broken hinge. And once you're down, that's it. Gravity has claimed you. Your body becomes a puddle of heat and regret, and you stare at the ceiling, or what's left of it, and try not to think about food, because guess what? Dinner's not coming either. There's no kitchen, no pantry, no snacks tucked under the floorboards, just a clay bowl with some leftover gruel, crust stuck to it, which you scrape with your fingernail and lick like the dignified ancient survivor you are. You consider asking your neighbor for something, but then you remember last week when she lent you an onion and you forgot to return the favor. And now, every time you make eye contact, she narrows her gaze like you personally cursed her harvest. So no, you'll go hungry tonight again, and try not to dream about bread, because dreaming about bread is worse than dreaming about death. At least death has an ending, and bread is just cruel fantasy. You close your eyes briefly and try to pretend your stomach isn't folding in on itself, like a dying star. Try to ignore the sound of someone retching. 2 huts down, or the distant wail of someone discovering their child has the plague. Or maybe just worms. It's hard to tell with the kids. These days, they always seem to be crying or vomiting or both. You scratch your scalp and come away with 3 lice and a clump of hair, and you laugh softly. Because what else can you do? Your hairline has been receding faster than the Nile in dry season, and you're only 20, maybe 23. No one knows for sure. Record keeping's a luxury for people with shoes. You glance at your feet covered in cuts and caked in mud. One toe looking a bit too purple, but it still moves mostly, so you decide to ignore that too. Everything is ignorable if you try hard enough. Even the buzzing in your ears and the low-grade fever that's been simmering since last month's water festival, which, fun fact, gave half your village diarrhea and the other half scabies. You were lucky you got both. You hear a scream outside, then laughter, then silence. And you hope it was just someone winning a bet, not someone losing a finger. Eventually, the night comes in full, but it doesn't bring relief. Only a slightly different kind of torment. The kind with mosquitoes and rats and strange animal noises. That could be jackals or demons, or your neighbor having a very dramatic argument with her husband again. And you try to find a comfortable position, which is impossible because your mat is lumpy. Your bones are angry, and the air is still thick with heat. No breeze, just sweat and dreams that won't form properly. And even when your eyes start to droop, your mind keeps racing, listing all the things that might kill you before sunrise. Parasites infected, cuts, collapsing ceilings, cursed amulets, accidentally angering a god by sneezing at the wrong time. You whisper a prayer again, not because you think anyone is listening, but because superstition is all you've got left. And as you lie there, half-conscious, wondering if your bones will still hurt in the afterlife, you think about how absurd it is that the history books will praise this era for its glorious civilization, and not for what it really was. A slow-motion meat grinder powered by sun, fear, and barley. You're the grease between the gears, and no one will ever know your name. Not even your own descendants, if you live long enough to make some, still think you're 8A. Zoom meeting is hard. You thought that was bleak. Wait until we talk about your health. The first thing you notice when you wake up isn't pain. It's absence. Specifically, the absence of movement in your left hand. You try to flex your fingers. They don't respond. Just a dull, numb throb, like your body has decided it's done cooperating. Congratulations. You've officially worked yourself into partial paralysis. Your prize another day of it. And maybe tetanus. It's hard to say. The cut on your palm has started to glow, a nice reddish purple, and is now leaking something that smells like fermented onion. You try to suck the pus out like you saw the old midwife do once, but your mouth goes instantly dry from the taste, and your lips start to peel from the salt. Charming. You roll over to sit up, and that's when the fever hits you. Full blast. It wraps around your skull like a linen bandage dipped in lava. But there's no doctor, no break, no note from your village elder saying, hey, stay in bed today. This is ancient Egypt, where healthcare is a combination of garlic paste, crocodile dung, and prayer. And you've already used up your garlic. Still, you can't lie here. You've got work, and missing it means docked rations, which means you won't eat, which means you'll get sicker, which means you'll die, which means no one will bury you, which means you'll haunt the fields for eternity, which honestly doesn't sound that different from what you're doing now. You wrap a strip of cloth around your hand and pretend it doesn't smell like death. You also pretend your nose isn't bleeding. Again, maybe it's the dust. Maybe it's divine punishment. Maybe it's just your body rejecting your continued existence. Who knows? The morning air feels like it's pressing down with the weight of 1,000 stale sandals. You cough into your elbow. Red. Still red. Nice. You step outside. The old woman across from you is smearing something onto her son's chest. It looks like mud. It is not mud. It is dung. Cow dung. Mixed with palm wine. For the fever, she says. You nod. You say nothing. She offers you some. You decline. But you do make a mental note because honestly, at this point, cow dung wine sounds better than your current treatment plan, which is hope. You walk past a man with a broken nose. It's set with a piece of wood and wrapped with a linen strip soaked in what he claims is holy Nile water. His eyes are yellow, not metaphorically. You walk faster. The village healer lives in a hut made entirely of reeds and dreams. He has one eye and 17 amulets hanging from his neck. One is a cat skull. One might be a toe. He tells you your swollen hand is the result of a demon invasion and offers you a powder made of crushed scarab shells, honey, and ash. He blows it directly into your wound. It hurts more than childbirth probably does. You haven't given birth, but you've seen it happen 3 feet from you on the dirt, and it looked less painful than what's happening to your hand right now. You thank him and leave with your arm buzzing like a hornet's nest. You can still smell the scarab dust in your nostrils. Somewhere in the distance, a child is screaming. Again, you don't even flinch anymore. Halfway to the fields, your vision goes blurry. You lean on a fence post. Except, it's not a fence post. It's a goat. It doesn't move. You both silently agree to pretend it's a fence post. You spit into the dirt. Blood again. Fine. Your stomach rumbles with the hunger of 1,000 lost souls. You haven't eaten in... It doesn't matter. You pass a man crouching by a fire grinding dried frogs into powder. For skin infections, he says. You believe him. You believe everything now. A young girl is pouring hot oil into a hollowed-out reed. She says it helps her grandmother's joint pain. The woman next to her says her husband cured a snake bite with beer and beetles. You ask how the husband is doing. Dead, she replies, but not from the snake. You make it to the fields barely. Every breath feels like your lungs are lined with sandpaper and bad decisions. You cough, try to hide it. Don't want to get flagged as sick. You've seen what happens to the sick. They're blessed, given an early send-off to the afterlife. In a ditch, unmarked, with no charms to protect their soul from being devoured by Amit the demon crocodile hippo lion hybrid that eats hearts heavier than a feather. And right now, you're feeling pretty heavy, sin-wise. Your neighbor offers you a balm made of crushed mint goat urine and lizard fat. It worked for my uncle's foot rot. You politely decline. She shrugs and eats the rest of it, raw. You do not make eye contact again for the rest of the day. Mid-morning, someone collapses, face first into the flax. Heat stroke, or maybe a spirit possession. Hard to say. The overseer calls for treatment, which turns out to be smacking the person with a sandal until they groan. See, the overseer says proudly, cured. You nod. You do not groan. You don't want the sandal cure. Later, you spot a young boy with bandages over his ears. Infection from lice. They used hot ash to seal the wounds. He's mostly deaf now. His father says that's a blessing. Fewer things to hear, he explains, like the sound of suffering. Or the priest yelling at me for sneezing during the sun ritual. You try not to laugh. You laugh anyway. It comes out as a wheeze. Someone hands you a lump of honey wrapped in papyrus. You eat it before asking what's in it. You don't want to know. Back in the village, there's a body being carried out, wrapped in linen. No priest, no ceremony. Just two men muttering he was too weak and dropping him in a pit. You recognize the man. He used to walk faster than you. He used to say things like, "I'm too strong to die." Now he's meat for the vultures. You spit into the dirt. It's red again. But hey, you're still standing. Kind of. You thought ancient medicine was gross. You haven't even gotten to the religious cures yet. You make it back to the village barely upright, drenched in sweat that smells like fear and yesterday's regret. And before you can even collapse into your sacred pit of straw and sorrow, a familiar voice calls out. No chance out from across the main path, and there he is, the village priest, tall, waxy and radiating, that particular energy of someone who thinks cleanliness is godliness, and also thinks you are not clean enough to breathe the same air as him. He's got on his ceremonial linen, crisp and pre-washed, unlike yours, which smells like it's been buried with a goat and then resurrected by mistake. And in his hands, he's holding a bowl of incense, waving it around like it's mosquito. Repellent and sin repellent rolled into one, and unfortunately, you are the mosquito. You are the sin. He locks eyes with you, and you know what's coming next, the purification ritual. Not for your benefit, of course, but for his. So the gods don't strike him dead just for looking at you. He circles you like a vulture sizing up a half-dead mouse, muttering prayers under his breath, while giving you full lecture eye. And he asks no demands to know what you've done lately that might have offended the gods, as if your general existence wasn't already a celestial insult. You rack your brain while trying not to vomit from the smell of burning myrrh, and mumble something about accidentally stepping on a frog during the new moon, maybe skipping one too many offerings, or possibly eating bread made during the wrong lunar cycle. And his eyes widen like you just confessed to murdering Ra with your bare hands. Aha, he says triumphantly, like your misfortune has finally been justified, like he can taste the divine punishment dripping off your wounds, and suddenly you're being herded toward the temple like a dirty, confused goat with a fever. The temple smells like oil and old sweat, and aggressive floral perfumes designed to hide the rot of sacrifice leftovers. The stone floors are slick with spilled beer and animal blood, and as you're pulled toward the purification basin, you wonder if drowning is still on the menu. The priest slaps a cold, wet cloth on your forehead, sprinkles powdered natron into your open cuts, which stings like salt and sandpaper in a blender, and recites a prayer that sounds suspiciously like a warning, then forces you to drink something thick and bitter that he swears will cleanse your soul. But judging by the cramps that immediately start curling your intestines into knots, it's more likely to evacuate your soul entirely. And while you're doubled over in religious agony, another priest approaches this one, carrying a small bronze idol of Sekhmet, goddess of war plague, and extremely specific punishments. He informs you that your symptoms align with ritual impurity due to moral deficiency, which is just a poetic way of saying you're disgusting and the gods noticed. You're not allowed to leave until you make an offering. So you hand over your last copper bead and a slightly moldy loaf of barley bread, and he accepts it with the grace of a man who thinks he's doing you a favor, then tells you to rest beneath the sacred tree, except the tree is dead, split by lightning. Last harvest, which they now call a divine sign, so you sit under its charred branches, shivering, watching flies circle your open sores, while two cats fight over a leftover chicken bone. Near the altar, a woman begins screaming inside the temple, either giving birth or being exorcised. You can't tell. And someone drops a jar which rolls towards you, leaking something red, which you hope is pomegranate juice, but deep down you know isn't. By late afternoon, the priest lets you leave with a warning. Any further illness will be considered defiance, which is amazing because now your immune system is a moral issue. Your fever is a sin. Your rash is divine retribution. And if you die, it's because you deserved it. Not because your drinking water contains more parasites than a rotting jackal carcass. You stumble back toward your hut, head spinning, stomach twisting. And as you pass the shrine at the village center, you see a man kneeling with his arms outstretched, whispering apologies to a statue of Thoth, the god of writing and judgment. He's sobbing because his harvest failed and his wife miscarried. And now he thinks the gods hate him. And maybe they do. Or maybe the soil just sucks and the rats are hungry. But that's not something you're allowed to say here. Not unless you want to be accused of heresy and have your tongue offered to Anubis as a chew toy. The fear of divine punishment seeps into everything. Cough too loudly during a prayer, and people look at you like your soul's leaking. Sneeze in the wrong direction, and someone starts smearing crocodile fat on your doorframe for protection. Lose a child, and the first thing they ask is what ritual you forgot to perform, what offering you skipped, what god you forgot to thank, because surely something must have angered them. It couldn't possibly be the sheer randomness of life. No, that would be chaos, and chaos must be explained preferably with incense and blame. You lay down as the sky darkens, your stomach twisting in pain, your skin burning from that natron ritual scrub, your brain trying to make sense of the fact that your health, your survival, your very existence is treated less like biology and more like courtroom drama between you and the pantheon. And you wonder how anyone finds peace like this, living each day under the threat of spiritual judgment, while surrounded by real material rot. You listen to the wind moan through the reeds and try to remember the last time you felt truly safe, and you can't, not in body, not in spirit, not in dreams. But hey, at least you're spiritually disinfected, right? You thought prayers were soothing. Wait until the environment tries to kill you too. You thought maybe, just maybe after the fever, the priest and the dung plaster skin cure the day would give you a break. Something small, like a breeze, a moment of shade, a nap where you don't wake up covered in bites. But no, because this is ancient Egypt. And if the sickness doesn't get you, the environment will. You step outside and immediately regret it. The air has the texture of old soup and smells like a compost pile fell in love with a dead fish. The sky is yellow-grey, the kind of sky that says, today will be educational in the worst way. You're about to find out what that means. You start walking toward the canal, hoping to fill your water jar before the animals beat you to it. They usually do, and when they don't, they drown in it. Your path takes you past 3 puddles of what used to be frogs, their skins baked flat into the dirt, like God tried to make pancakes and gave up halfway. You wave at a neighbor crouched under a collapsing awning, fanning herself with a palm frond and swatting flies with what might be her own sandal. She gives you a dead-eyed smile and points upward. You follow her gaze. The sky is swirling now, little sand ghosts curling at the edges of the horizon. That's when you hear it, the whisper of wind about to become a punch in the face. You keep walking because you're too tired to run and too stubborn to go back. The canal is only a few hundred feet away, and you are 30% dust at this point anyway. Then it hits the sandstorm. No warning, no ceremony, just wind and grit in every single orifice. Your ears, your nose, your soul, every pore now full of sand. You drop to your knees and pull your scarf over your face, but it's too late. Your eyes feel like they've been exfoliated by a vengeful cactus. You crawl forward blindly, one hand clutching the water jar, the other dragging your dignity behind you. Somewhere to your right, someone's shouting. To your left, something collapses with a crunch that sounds vaguely structural. You keep crawling. At this point, you'd rather drown in the canal than be sandblasted into a statue. Eventually the wind dies down, just enough for you to realize your mouth is full of dirt and your water jar has cracked. A fine metaphor. You drag yourself the last few feet and dip what's left of the jar into the canal. The water is lukewarm brown and smells like wet hay and spoiled fish. It is by any modern standard a war crime in a bowl. But you drink. You drink and gag and drink again, because dehydration will kill you faster than parasites. You're aware the water probably contains a few dozen microscopic hitchhikers, liver flukes, intestinal worms, invisible insults to your entire digestive tract. But at this point, you don't care. You'll just add it to your list of slow deaths currently underway. You head back to the village, dragging your cracked jar and newly sanded skin behind you, and arrive just in time to see the granary door fly open. A dozen villagers scream in unison. Locusts. Actual biblical-level, sky-darkening, nightmare-fueled locusts. They pour out of the grain store like someone kicked open hell's pantry. You stand there blinking through the dust as your food security flaps away on greasy wings. No one even tries to stop them. You just watch the last of the barley disappear into the sky. One of the elders throws his walking stick and yells, "This is because we missed the moon offering." Someone else screams, "No, it's the cursed goat." You think it's probably just the locusts, but you don't say that out loud unless you want to be accused of heresy again and get spiritually exfoliated by temple ash. You turn around and nearly trip over a snake, because of course, long, black-coiled, and exactly where your foot was going to land. You freeze. It stares at you. You stare back. You share a moment. A moment of mutual exhaustion. It hisses, probably calling you an idiot in snake language, and slithers off. You whisper a thank you. You're not sure to whom. Maybe to the snake. Maybe to the gods. Maybe to your ancestors who clearly made terrible life choices that landed you in this bloodline. Either way, you live. For now, you stagger home and collapse against the outside wall of your hut, too dusty to go inside. Your skin burns from sun exposure, and your feet look like someone tried to roast them over a slow fire. You pick at a scab and watch a beetle crawl by carrying what looks like a human tooth. You don't ask questions anymore. You just nod respectfully. The wind picks up again, just a little, bringing with it the distinct stench of river rot and donkey sweat. Somewhere far away, thunder growls. You think maybe rain, but of course not. The last time it rained, your roof collapsed and the rats moved into your mattress. Rain is not hope. Rain is structural damage with a soundtrack. As night creeps in, the temperature drops not gently, but violently. One moment you're baking, the next your bones feel like they've been refrigerated. You pull your lice-ridden wool wrap over your shoulders and huddle against the wall. The stars come out and they're beautiful. But it's hard to enjoy them when your teeth are chattering and your fingers won't bend from swelling. A cat climbs onto your lap. You let it. It might steal your body heat, but at least it's warm and not actively trying to eat you. Yet, you stare into the darkness, trying not to think about the fact that the Nile is flooding earlier every year, or that crocodiles have been seen closer to the village, or that the rising damp is eating away at your neighbor's foundation and their sanity. You tell yourself tomorrow might be better, but the night knows. The night laughs. You thought disease and gods were cruel. Wait until we talk about your dinner. You dreamt of bread. Not real bread. Just the idea of it. Hot, fluffy, warm. The kind of bread that comes in loaves instead of lumps. The kind that doesn't bite back. But when you open your eyes, you're still in ancient Egypt. And the only thing on the menu is disappointment now with extra weevils. Your stomach growls in protest before you've even sat up. It's been growling for 3 days. You'd apologize to it, but your body stopped accepting apologies around the same time. It stopped digesting raw barley properly. You drag yourself upright and rub your eyes with dirt-encrusted fingers, which only makes them sting more. Outside your hut, the sun is climbing. Your neighbors are arguing about whether or not last night's jackal screams were an omen, and the smell of burnt porridge is already creeping in from somewhere nearby. That's your cue. Breakfast time, if you can call it that. You wander toward the communal fire pit, where someone is stirring a pot of something greyish. It's bubbling in a way that soup shouldn't bubble unless it's angry. A fly lands on the rim and immediately drowns. A small mercy. You hold out your bowl and receive your daily scoop. A ladle of lukewarm barley paste, unseasoned, unshaped, unforgiving. It jiggles when it shouldn't, and crunches when it absolutely shouldn't. Inside your portion, 1 pebble, 3 weevils and a hair. You hope it's yours. You stir half-heartedly and take a bite. The texture is structural. It tastes like dirt that's been politely spit on by someone who once met a chef. You chew, because chewing is what humans do before they cry. And then you chew again and again, until your jaw cramps and your soul gives up. One of the elders nearby coughs loudly and announces that he once ate a honey cake during the reign of Seti I, which is impressive because you're not entirely sure. Seti, I was alive during his lifetime. He describes it with such loving detail. Pistachio's real honey goat butter, that you briefly consider eating him. Not all of him, just the fatty bits. You shake the thought out of your head. Cannibalism is frowned upon even in famine years. Probably you'll check the temple board later. You finish your portion and instantly regret not savoring the last few weevils. They were the only source of protein. Now it's time for lunch prep. Yes, you personally. You're sent to gather fresh greens, which in Egypt means whatever hasn't died yet. You trek out to the edge of the settlement, picking through dried reeds, half-wilted onion stalks, and something that might be lettuce or might be poison. It doesn't matter. You toss it in the basket. Back at the hut, a woman is crushing acacia pods into flour. She sneezes violently into the bowl and keeps going. You pretend not to notice. There's no meat. There's never meat. The last chicken was sacrificed to Bastet during your cousin's infection crisis. And the priest forgot to bless the leftovers, so now the village considers poultry cursed. Fish possible. If you want to risk a crocodile encounter and a parasite buffet, you do not. Instead, you mash the foraged greens into a thick paste, mix it with stale barley, and shape it into discs. They won't cook fully, but who's got time for fully? You slap them on a hot rock and call it innovation. The smell isn't great, but it's warm. And warmth is flavor, right? You serve the food to your household, your aunt, who still believes in the healing power of cow spit. Your half-brother who recently married a woman 3 goats taller than him. And your younger cousin who is currently licking ash off her fingers and pretending it's seasoning. They all eat in silence, not out of reverence, but because talking wastes energy. You chew your disc and pretend it's cake. It isn't. It sticks to your teeth like punishment and falls apart in your mouth like guilt. Your cousin chokes slightly. No one reacts. She recovers. It's fine. Midday arrives with a dry breeze that smells like the Nile at low tide. Stagnant, sun-boiled, slightly fishy. You head toward the water again, this time with a different jar, hoping for something slightly clearer than yesterday's offering. Instead, you find 3 other villagers fighting over a floating onion. One grabs it and yells blessings before tripping into the shallows. You wait for him to resurface. He does, clutching the onion like a newborn. You give him a thumbs up and walk away. Dinner is an afterthought. No one plans it. It just sort of happens like sadness. Someone has old lentils. Someone else finds a fig with a worm inside. Protein bonus. A handful of dried dates are passed around, each one more shriveled than your will to live. You sit around the fire with 6 others and chew silently, watching the stars appear above the village like tiny mocking eyes. One man talks about the feast he saw once in Memphis. Fresh duck leeks, stewed honey figs. The group goes quiet. No one says it out loud, but you all hate him a little now. The fire dies down. Your stomach groans, not from fullness, just confusion. Like it's asking, was that food? Are you sure? You pat it like an ungrateful cat and lie back against the mud brick wall. You feel your ribs pressing through your skin, each one an underfed xylophone. Your tongue feels swollen. Your breath smells like barley ghosts. You know you'll wake up hungrier. You know tomorrow's food will be the same. But you also know one thing for sure. If you ever see someone complain about too much kale in the future, you will scream through time itself. You thought food was comfort. Wait until we get to violence. The village wakes up slower today. Or maybe it just feels slower because the air's heavier, like it knows something. Something unpleasant. You notice it first in the way your neighbors move heads, down voices, tight eyes darting like they're waiting for something to fall out of the sky. You go outside, stomach still grumbling from last night's barley paste tragedy, and you hear the kind of silence that only happens before a very public disaster. And then right on cue, you hear the horn, not the celebratory one, the other one, the low droning horn that means someone's been caught. You stop walking. Everyone stops walking. Even the goat with the limp stops walking, because when that horn sounds, it means justice is coming. Ancient Egyptian justice, the kind with sticks, ropes, hot knives, and public shaming that somehow manages to be both poetic and horrifying. You shuffle along with the crowd toward the village square, because not going looks suspicious. And you can't afford to look suspicious. You blend in, You try to breathe through your mouth because someone's already soiled themselves. Or maybe that's just the usual smell of mass anxiety. At the center of the square, 2 guards stand stiff and proud like statues made of arrogance and leather. Between them, a man, bloodied arms, tired face swollen. You recognize him, sort of. He worked near the fields. Quiet guy. Always coughed, like he had a papyrus scroll stuck in his lungs. They say he stole something. Maybe barley. Maybe a necklace. Maybe just the wrong kind of glance at the wrong person's goat. You'll never know. You don't need to. Because guilt isn't really the point. Fear is. The priest steps forward. He reads out the charges in a booming voice, designed to echo off the walls and into your nightmares. He says things like offense against the order of Ma'at and corruption of community balance. And all you hear is don't do anything weird or you're next. The punishment is swift and symbolic. First, the whipping, 10 lashes. That's the ceremonial number. After that, it's just showing off. You count to 15 before losing track. Not because you're distracted, because you're too busy imagining it happening to you. The pain, the sound, the way no one, not even his friend, steps forward. Not even his mother, who stands behind the back row, quietly mouthing something that could be a prayer or a curse or both. They drag him away afterward, not back to his home, but to the pit behind the granary, the one with bones sticking out like someone's attempt at sculpture. You heard a few years ago that a man was buried alive back there for blasphemy. You don't know if it's true. You don't want to know. The pit is truth enough. You don't talk about what happened, not in front of people. You go back to work with your mouth shut and your spine a little stiffer. That's how it works. The system doesn't want your compliance. It wants your fear. Fear of what you say, what you wear, where you walk, how you laugh, even what you think. You caught yourself yesterday wondering why the temple got all the fresh figs, while your brother's children were eating sand for fun. You bit your tongue so hard it bled, and you still feel like you said too much. That afternoon, a woman gets accused of disrespecting a temple idol. You didn't see it happen, but someone says she brushed against the statue of Hathor with her left hand. You don't know if that's real. You don't care. The punishment's the same. She's made to kneel in the sun while the priests chant. Her husband offers a goat as penance. It's accepted. The woman is let go, but she doesn't stand up. She just sits there, blank-eyed, until someone drags her away by the elbow. You wonder if she'll ever look up again. Later, you're back in the field, pretending your stomach isn't eating itself, and your hands aren't numb from overwork. The overseer rides by on a donkey too small for his ego. He stops near a boy who's limping. The boy tries to straighten up, fails. The overseer dismounts, and without a word whips the boy behind the knees. Once, twice. Not for stealing, not for disobedience, just for limping. Don't show weakness, he says, and gets back on the donkey. You nod. You always nod. Because nodding is safer than silence. Back in the village, someone's laughing. Too loud. You turn to look. A man is telling a joke about Pharaoh's nose being shaped like a carrot. A few people chuckle, then go quiet. You look around. One of the temple scribes is nearby. He's pretending not to listen, but his eyes are like wet knives. You quietly walk away before your name ends up on the report slate. That night, a fire starts. A cooking fire that jumps a roof. 3 huts gone. No one blames the gods. Not out loud, but by morning someone's found a girl with soot on her sleeves. She's accused of inviting chaos. No trial, no speech. She's marched to the temple steps and left kneeling there for the gods to decide. You ask what that means. She'll know, someone says. You never see her again. You curl up in your mat later that night, trying not to move, trying not to dream. Your bruises are still sore from last week's fall. You didn't report it. You didn't tell anyone. Because if you complain, someone will say you're ungrateful, or disruptive, or challenging the divine order. And if you do that, they won't just break your bones. They'll say, it was your fault they had to. You stare at the wall and remind yourself, don't limp, don't talk, don't look anyone in the eye. And whatever you do, don't think out loud. You thought food was pain. Violence is dinner theatre here. There's a moment just after dusk when everything softens, when the wind drops, the light dims, and for one stupid second, it almost feels like peace. Like maybe tonight you'll get rest. Maybe your family won't argue. Maybe the goat won't chew through the roof again. And then your aunt walks in and ruins it. She's holding the basket. Your basket. The one you left hidden behind the jars this morning with a quarter loaf of barley bread and 2 dried dates. Your emergency stash, your only backup plan for when the gods inevitably forget you exist again. And she's holding it empty. Did you eat this? She asks. Except it's not a question. It's theatre, because someone ate it, and she knows it wasn't you, which leaves the list very short. You look around. Your cousin 11, sharp-eyed and sticky-fingered, is pretending to be asleep. Which would be more convincing if he weren't chewing. Your aunt glares at you like you made him do it. He's just a boy, she says. He needs to eat. So do you, but you say nothing. You never say anything when it's family, because family is supposed to matter, supposed to protect you. But here in ancient Egypt, survival doesn't leave room for sentimentality. The barley bread is gone. And so is your illusion that blood keeps people honest. Later, your half-brother stops by. He's been working with the priest scribe lately. Important work, supposedly. He always arrives cleaner than anyone has a right to be. White linen, oiled hair, a smug little godling smirk. He tells you very casually that your name came up in temple records. They're watching you, he says, as he chews on something real meat, by the smell of it. He doesn't offer you any... He says this like it's advice, like he's helping. Then he leaves. You want to throw something at him. You want to ask how he ended up with a scribe's job while you're picking flax with open sores and hallucinating from protein deficiency. But you know the answer. His mother was strategic. Yours was not. Outside, your neighbor is weeping. Loud, theatrical weeping. She does this every few days. Today, it's because her daughter ran off with a grain merchant. Last week, it was because someone stole her goat, which she later found inside her house, chewing on the laundry. You tried to ignore her, but she comes closer. She always comes closer. She starts whispering about your cousin. He's been stealing from everyone, she says. I saw him with one of my figs. You nod slowly. She's probably right. Your cousin has the loyalty of a drunk jackal and the impulse control of a sandstorm, but you defend him anyway. He's just hungry, you mutter. She scoffs. So are we all. The worst part is that you don't blame him. Not really. You've taken things too. Last month, you pocketed a fig from the temple altar when no one was looking. It was rotting. It still tasted better than anything you've eaten since. You felt guilty for a while. Then your cousin stole your only pair of clean linen wraps and sold them for lamp oil. And that was that. Guilt is expensive. Loyalty is optional. Love is a luxury. You'd kill for each other, but you'd also rob each other blind in the same breath. That's what survival does. It makes every bond conditional, even the ones that should be sacred. You lie back on your mat and stare at the wall, tracing the cracks with your eyes, like they might tell your fortune. Your aunt is mumbling prayers. Your cousin is snoring. Somewhere in the distance, someone is yelling about a stolen chicken. You close your eyes. You think about your father, long dead, probably buried in a nameless ditch if he was lucky. He used to say, trust the river more than your neighbors. At least the river only drowns you once. You used to think he was bitter. Now you think he was just early. The next morning your cousin is gone. No note. No explanation. Just a missing mat and a half-empty jar of lentils. You're not sure if he ran away or was taken. You check the ditch. Nothing. You check the temple board. Still nothing. You don't tell your aunt. Not yet. She's already convinced the gods are testing her. You don't want to confirm it. Instead, you do what everyone here does when someone vanishes. You pretend it didn't happen. You sweep the mat. You cover the jar. You go to the fields. At lunch, your neighbor leans in and says, "Your cousin was seen near the river with a foreigner." She says foreigner like it's a crime. Maybe it is. You nod chew your gritty lentils and file the information away with the rest of the useless knowledge that won't save you from anything. You wonder if he left on purpose or if someone sold him. Slavery is illegal, technically, but so is stealing barley. And we all know how that went. You return home to find your aunt sitting outside staring into the distance. Her hands folded neatly in her lap. "Have you seen him?" she asks. You shake your head. She nods, says nothing else. The sun is setting. You sit next to her. She doesn't cry. Neither do you. You just sit there, two figures carved out of hunger and dust, watching the horizon and waiting for a shadow that will never come back. You thought family would save you. Welcome to Egypt, where blood runs thinner than pottage, and betrayal is just another word for breakfast. Night falls like wet linen, sudden, heavy and clinging. There's no twilight here, not really. Just one moment of golden haze and then black. The kind of black that swallows edges, silences birds, and makes the wind sound like a whispering stranger. You sit on the ground beside the dying fire, watching the embers twitch, like they're trying to tell you something. No one talks much after sundown. Words draw attention. Attention draws spirits. And you already have enough problems without inviting an accidental possession. Your aunt is inside rocking slightly and mumbling to herself something about the gods don't forget the ones who vanish. She's been repeating it for hours. You try to offer her water. She swatted your hand away like it was a curse. Fine, let her commune with the dead. You've got your own mind to keep from unraveling. You pick up a shard of pottery and start scratching lines into the dirt. Not words, just patterns. Repetition helps. Sometimes. Around you the village tightens. Doors are covered offerings placed at thresholds. Small oil lamps flicker behind reed mats. The light feels more symbolic than useful. More about keeping things out than seeing what's around you. Because you don't really want to see what's around you. The jackals are already circling the outer fields. You can hear them laughing in that high, cracked way they do. Someone says, if you hear a jackal laugh 3 times, it means someone you love will die. Someone else says, it just means the jackal's found a bloated goat. Honestly, it could be both. You lie down on your mat and try to sleep. You don't? Not really. The cold rises from the floor and settles in your bones. Your muscles ache in that dull, unsolvable way. You scratch at a rash on your ankle and feel the skin flake away like old bark. Something is definitely nesting in your bedding. Probably lice. Possibly worse. But you don't move. Because moving invites attention. And because you're too tired. Tired in the marrow. Tired in the soul. Somewhere nearby, a baby starts crying. Then stops. Too quickly. You hear hushed voices. A woman saying, "Don't let it smell the milk." A man saying, "Bury the doll." Just in case. You close your eyes harder. You try to hum a song your mother used to sing. You can't remember the words. Just the rhythm. Just the way her voice made the air feel less sharp. That was a lifetime ago. That was before the river took her. Or the fever. Or the gods. It doesn't matter anymore. She's dust. The wind shifts and carries a different smell now. Sour, sweet, wrong. It smells like decay and incense and something wet that shouldn't be wet. You sit up. You aren't the only one. Other heads rise from mats. Shadows move behind doorways. Everyone feels it. The night just got heavier. Someone says a name. Not loudly, just under their breath. A name not spoken since the last plague year. You wish they hadn't said it. You curl tighter, wrap your wool closer, feel every louse on your scalp. Do a celebratory dance. The fear doesn't spike. It seeps, like water through stone. Slow, constant, inevitable. It wraps around your ribs and whispers to your lungs, "You're not safe." You hear a thump outside. Not an animal, too deliberate. Something walking, or dragging, or both. Your breath catches. You think about the amulet buried beneath your mat, the one the midwife gave you when your sister died. She said it would protect you from visits. You remember laughing. You're not laughing now. Hours pass. Maybe. There's no way to measure them. No clocks, just silence then. Noise then, silence again. You drift in and out of a half-sleep filled with images that don't belong to you. A hand reaching through reeds. A woman with no face standing in the river. A cat with human eyes licking your feet. You wake up sweating, chilled, confused. Was it a dream or just a memory? Or worse, a warning? You whisper a prayer to no one in particular, just whoever's listening. You promise to make an offering. You promise to clean your mat. You promise not to say the God's name again. You promise everything, because that's what the night does. It turns you into a liar, begging for forgiveness from forces that probably aren't even listening. Someone down the path is chanting, not loudly, just enough. You recognize the cadence. It's for protection, or expulsion, or both. You don't join. You just listen, and curl in tighter, and try not to think. Because thinking at night is dangerous. Thoughts become fears. Fears become whispers, and whispers become things. You wish suddenly and stupidly for a light, a candle, a fire, even lightning, anything to chase the shadows back. You stare at the ceiling and swear it's breathing. You count your fingers. You press your tongue to your teeth. You slap yourself lightly, just to feel something real. It helps. A little, not enough. Eventually, somehow you sleep. You dream of drowning in sand. You dream of a voice calling your name from under the floor. You dream of your cousin. But he's not your cousin. His mouth is too wide. His eyes are hollow. He says, "You left me." Then he laughs. Like a jackal, you wake to silence. Not peace. Not calm. Just silence that hums with unfinished things. You thought death was scary. Wait until the night decides you're worth noticing. You wake up face down in dirt. Not dramatically. Not screaming. Just there. Flat. Damp. Wrong. Your limbs are twisted like you were wrestling something in your sleep. Or trying to crawl away from it. You're not sure you succeeded. Your mat is askew. Your blanket halfway across the room. Your hair tangled with pieces of straw. And a suspicious beetle leg. Everything hurts, including the places that weren't hurting yesterday, especially those. You taste metal. You smell mildew and morning. It's light outside, or at least the sky is more grey than black, which means you're not dead, yet. You're not sure how you feel about that. Your aunt is gone. So is her bowl, and your last date. You stare at the spot where it used to be, hoping it might come back out of guilt. It doesn't. Fine. She probably thought you were too weak to eat. She's not wrong. You try to sit up, and your shoulder gives a gentle wet pop that sounds like someone stepping on an overripe fig. That's new. You press your hand to your chest and feel your own heartbeat like it's happening 3 feet away. That's also new. You blink at the ceiling until the blurriness goes from terrifying to normal. Then you stand, slowly, carefully, like a pottery jar that's already cracked and just trying to pretend it's still a vase. You stagger outside and immediately regret it. The sun isn't up yet, but the heat is already licking the back of your neck. The flies are awake. The air smells like something died and then fermented in an open shoe. You hear voices down the path, but they don't sound friendly. You keep your head down and walk past the water jars empty. Of course. You stumble to the edge of the path where someone's dumped last night's dishwater into the weeds and crouch over the patch of yellowing grass to sip whatever moisture you can squeeze out of a leaf. It tastes like sadness. You drink it anyway. Today isn't going to be a good day. You know that before anyone tells you. Your body tells you first. The cramps in your stomach feel like someone tied your intestines in a decorative knot and forgot to undo it. Your legs are stiff. Your back is bubbling with heat rash. You lift your tunic and find 2 new blisters and a bite mark you don't remember earning. One of your fingernails is turning black. Again, you flex your hands. The left one still barely responds. You hold it up to your face, inspect the swelling. The shiny red line running from your palm to your wrist. Infection. You cover it with cloth and pretend it doesn't exist. That's the only treatment you can afford. The others are already heading to the fields. No one waits for you. No one asks. You join them like a ghost joining a parade. Your feet drag. You can feel every pebble through your sandals. Your spine clicks like it's trying to reset itself without your permission. When you reach the edge of the irrigation ditch, you sit. That's all you can do. Just sit. A woman nearby gives you a glance. Not sympathy, just calculation. You'll be marked absent, she says. You nod. She shrugs. Your choice. It's not a choice. It's a delay. You force yourself up after a few minutes, just enough to shuffle to a flax row and kneel. Your knees scream. You ignore them. You start pulling. Slowly, one stalk at a time. Your hands tremble. You can't grip properly. You dig your nails into the dirt just to feel anchored. You keep working even when your vision doubles, even when your breath shortens. Because stopping is death. Because pain is safer than stillness. Because nobody's coming to help you. They're all trying to survive same as you. And if you drop, they'll just step over you. At midday someone collapses. Not you. Yet. A boy, face down in the mud. The overseer laughs and says he'll toughen up. The boy doesn't move. No one checks. You keep working. You feel a tear slip down your cheek and pretend it's sweat. It might be. It stings just the same. At the communal break, someone passes around a bowl of half-cooked beans and dirty rice. You take a scoop and sit under a reed shelter. A man beside you vomits after his second bite. The woman next to him says it's the spirits. The rice was cursed. You keep chewing anyway, because cursed food is still food. You swallow gravel with your beans and don't bother picking it out. Your teeth are already loose. What's one more crack? You lean against a post, eyes half closed, mouth dry, wondering if maybe this is it. Maybe this is the part where your body gives out, where you collapse into the dirt and never stand up again, where the gods look down and say, finally, but no, not yet. You're not lucky enough for that. Someone yells your name loud, sharp, like a slap. You jolt. You stand. You work. The day drags. You don't remember most of it. Just flashes. The crunch of a beetle under your foot. The sting of dust in a cracked lip. The whisper of someone saying your name again, but different. This time soft, distant, not human. Maybe you imagined it. You hope so. You pray so. You return to the village just before dusk. Your legs are shaking. Your vision swims. You reach your hut and collapse, not gently, like a bag of spoiled dates hitting the ground. You lie there gasping, blinking, trying to decide if you're dying or just being dramatic. You lift your hand and stare at the infection line. It's further now. Higher. The skin is hot. It pulses. You should scream. You should run. But you don't. You laugh. Once. Quietly. Because why not? Because it's absurd. Because your body is turning into a historical footnote, and all you can do is hope it doesn't do so in front of an audience. Outside, a jackal cries again. Once. Twice. You wait for the third. It doesn't come. You thought day brought safety. Wait until night starts whispering again. It's not night yet, but the shadows arrive early. Long stretched distorted across the dirt, like someone smeared the sun wrong. You sit slumped against your hut wall, arms wrapped around your knees, watching as the light dies, one reluctant breath at a time. There's no sound from inside. Your aunt hasn't spoken all day. She hasn't moved either. You didn't check. You didn't want to. If she's still breathing, she'll make a sound. If she isn't, well, one less mouth. That's how your brain says it now. Not with cruelty, with numb practicality, like you're budgeting, which in a way you are. Your infected hand is twice its normal size. The cloth you wrapped around it is stiff with pus and regret. It itches and burns and pulses with a rhythm you're pretty sure doesn't match your heartbeat. You stare at it, wondering if it's going to fall off or explode first. Either way, it feels like something else's problem, like this isn't your hand anymore, like you're already watching yourself from a distance, a ghost still wearing its skin. You hear someone whisper your name, again, but when you look no one's there, just a stretch of dirt and old pottery shards. You squint toward the fields and see a figure standing at the edge of the reeds, not moving, not facing you, just there, thin, slight, familiar. It looks like your cousin, but taller. Wronger. You blink and it's gone. You press the back of your good hand to your forehead. Still burning, still real. Probably. Night slips in sideways. The kind of night that doesn't fall, it crawls. You feel it inching over your feet, your shoulders down your spine, like it's checking for a weak spot. You light a scrap of oilcloth and set it in the bowl beside you. The flame is pitiful. It flickers like it's scared. You pull your wool closer and whisper a prayer. The short one your mother taught you. The one about, please just one more day, even though you're not sure you want one. Inside the hut, your aunt finally speaks. One word, eyes. You freeze. They're in the walls, she says. Her voice is papery, dry. They blink when you breathe. You don't reply. You don't go in. You just sit outside your bad hand, throbbing like a drum. Your thoughts spiraling like leaves in the Nile. You close your eyes and try to remember something, anything peaceful. A cool breeze, the sound of sandals on wet clay. Your sister laughing before she died. But it all collapses. Memory here is quicksand. Down the path, someone starts singing. A lullaby, soft and off-key. A child's voice. Or maybe a very old woman. You can't tell. The melody twists. It doesn't soothe. It clings. You press your hands over your ears, but the tune leaks in anyway. You whisper to yourself. Random words. Names of animals. Colors. Anything to distract your brain from turning inside out. You're not sure how long it lasts. Time has become a suggestion. Then silence. Too complete. Not peaceful. Hollow. The kind of silence that feels like the world is holding its breath. You open your eyes. The fire's gone out. Your hands are trembling. You look up, and there's someone standing over you. Not close, not touching. Just there, backlit by the moon. Or maybe the moon is gone too, and the light is something else. You stare. The figure doesn't move. You try to speak, but your throat doesn't work. A dry clicking sound comes out. You blink. The figure is still there. Not walking, not breathing, just watching. You grab the amulet under your shirt, the scarab-shaped one with the crack in it. You squeeze it so hard your palm bleeds. You whisper the protection chant, 3 lines repeated 3 times for 3 gods. You mess up the second line. You say it again. The figure flickers, like it's glitching. Then it's gone. Your aunt laughs inside the hut, not kindly. You don't check on her. You can't. The rest of the night isn't sleep. It's not even rest. It's endurance. You lie on your side, eyes open, watching shapes crawl across the walls that aren't really shapes. Listening to voices, whisper words that aren't in any language, you know. Your hand throbs louder than your heartbeat. Your stomach twists with emptiness and fear. At one point, you swear your mat lifts off the ground. Just slightly. Just enough. You pretend it didn't. You pretend everything is fine. You hum the lullaby in reverse. You don't know why. It feels safer that way. Eventually light comes. Pale. Reluctant. As if the sun's not sure it wants to deal with you anymore. You sit up. Bones cracking lips. Splitting eyes burning. Your body is one big protest. You're not even surprised when you look down and see that your infected hand has turned a new color. Not red, not black, green. You laugh, you cry. It's the same sound now. You thought superstition was silly. Wait until the sun rises and nothing feels real anymore. The sun rises. Reluctantly, it drags itself over the horizon, like it's just as tired of this place as you are. The light hits your face, and your first thought is still here. Not relief, not hope, just disappointment wrapped in dry breath. You sit up and immediately regret it. Your spine pops like crushed beetles. Your stomach lurches. Your infected hand now smells like something between swamp rot and old onions. You peel back the cloth and gag. There's a color under there that doesn't belong to nature. It's soft, glossy, like fruit left too long in the heat. You stare at it and think, that's not my hand anymore. And the worst part is you're not even scared, just inconvenienced. You limp to the water jars, still empty. You kneel beside the cracked one, scrape a few drops from the inside with your uninfected fingers and lick them off your knuckles. It tastes like clay and dust. You wipe your mouth and look around. No one's talking. No one's moving fast. This is the slow hour, the hour of regrets. The hour where you remember you still exist and have to do something about it. Your neighbor is sitting in the dirt chewing a reed eyes hollow, like her thoughts packed up and left without her. You nod. She nods. It's the closest thing to affection you felt in days. Your aunt hasn't moved. You check. She's breathing. Barely. Her skin looks thinner than parchment. Her eyes don't focus anymore. You offer her a dried fig you find under a jar. She doesn't take it. You eat it yourself. Guilt tastes like sweetness now. It's fine. You go outside and join the march of the half-dead to the fields. Your legs argue. Your lungs protest. But your brain doesn't care anymore. It's stuck on a loop walk, work, die. No one asks about your hand. They can see it. They just choose not to acknowledge it. A boy stares too long and his mother pulls him away, muttering prayers. You hear her whisper unclean like it's a diagnosis and a prophecy. You'd argue, but honestly she's not wrong. You reach the fields and kneel like always. But this time, your body doesn't follow the plan. Your knee gives out. Your face hits dirt. No one helps. One man says he's just tired. Another says it's catching up. They mean death. They mean time. They mean the slow forgetting that comes for all of you. You get back up, slowly, without grace, with no dignity left. The overseer walks past, doesn't even glance at you. You're not worth the stick today. That should be a victory. It isn't. You work, slower than the others. With one hand, you fumble stalks. You drop more than you keep, but you move. You work, because what else is there? You think about your name, about how it will be forgotten. Not tomorrow, not next week, but soon, because you're not a priest, not a scribe. You didn't carve your name into stone. No tomb, no statue, no record, just bones in a hole and memories that vanish like smoke in a windstorm. You remember your father's name, but barely. You mouth it to yourself and it feels foreign now. You can't remember your grandfather's name at all, or your mother's mother. Just faces, faded, your lineage dissolving behind you like a rope unraveling. You drop your sickle and stare at your hand. It doesn't feel like yours. It's swollen, misshapen, oozing. You imagine cutting it off, using the sickle. You wonder how long you'd last with one arm. You wonder if anyone would notice. Midday hits like a slap. The heat is back with teeth. You feel it inside your skull, boiling. One of the workers collapses again. The overseer this time does not laugh. He signals two boys to drag the body away. He's dead, someone says. Or lazy. No one checks. The line moves on. The fields keep growing. The canal keeps running. The gods keep watching, or sleeping, or ignoring you completely. You try to remember what it was like to be a child. You remember water, cool, clean, splashing in shallow reeds. Your brother's voice. Your mother's hands pulling you out laughing. Was that real? Or are you borrowing someone else's memory? You try to feel something. Nostalgia, sadness, joy. But there's only static now. A low hum of function. Like you've become a machine made of skin and silence. You eat lunch, if it can be called that. A handful of boiled reeds. A scrap of onion. You chew for the action, not the nourishment. Your mouth bleeds. You swallow anyway. Someone jokes about the pharaoh. You don't laugh. Not because you're scared, but because you forgot how. Your lips crack when you try. Your jaw stings. You sit in the sun and feel the light peeling layers off your face. A woman asks your name. You say it. It sounds wrong. Like it belongs to someone else. She nods, then forgets you. At dusk, you return to the village. You see a fire by the temple. They're burning offerings. Papyrus scroll statues, someone's sandals. Purification, they call it. Or maybe just cleaning up. You wonder if your name was written on any of those scrolls. You wonder if you should feel something. You don't. You reach your hut. Your aunt is gone. Or still inside. Or never existed. You lie down. The dirt is warm. Your eyes sting. You stare at the ceiling. You whisper your name again. Just to hear it. Just to see if it still fits. It doesn't. You close your eyes. Not to sleep. Just to stop seeing things. The gods. The faces. The ghosts. Yourself. You thought legacy mattered. Wait until even you forget who you were. You wake up because of the flies. Not one, not two. A swarm. Buzzing at your face like they've been waiting all night. You swat at them and your hand barely moves. The bad one. The wrong one. It's stiff now. Green-purple. Smells like a punishment. You think about unwrapping the cloth again, but last time you looked it was worse. And worse is a slippery slope here. Worse leads to priestly judgment. Worse gets you paraded through the village for spiritual cleansing. Worse gets you left out for the gods or the vultures, whichever shows up first. So you keep it wrapped, you keep it hidden, you keep pretending it's part of you. You sit up and realize your blanket is gone. Your aunt maybe, or someone else, it doesn't matter. It wasn't warm anyway. You look around. Nothing's been stolen because nothing's worth stealing. Your bowl is cracked. Your mat is just a cluster of reeds holding hands. The only thing left in the hut with any value is you, and that's debatable. You stand, slowly. Every joint clicks like a failing trap. Your knees argue. Your spine threatens. You win but barely. Outside, the air is sour, heavy. The sky is orange-grey. The kind of colour that says storm or plague, pick one. You drag yourself toward the canal past the usual assortment of hunched backs and blank stares. No one greets you. No one even looks. You've become invisible. A background shape. Part of the texture of suffering. You find a puddle and kneel beside it. The water is brown cloudy, probably moving from worms. You drink. You gag. You drink again. It's ritual now. Back at the field, the overseer doesn't even shout when you arrive late. He just nods at you, like he's surprised you're still walking. So are you. You kneel in the dirt and try to pull flax with one hand. The effort feels theatrical, pointless, like you're miming a life you no longer live. You pause halfway through a pull and stare at your hand. Not the bad one, the good one. It's trembling now too, just a little, like it's jealous or catching up. Midday comes with heat. Not the kind that burns, this is the kind that melts. You feel your skin soften. Your thoughts slide. A boy next to you passes out. No one moves. Eventually, he wakes up and keeps working. You say nothing. He doesn't thank anyone, because no one helped. That's how it works now. At the break, someone offers you a fruit. You don't know what kind. It's mushy, sour, might be rotten. You eat it anyway. They smile. Their teeth are missing. You don't ask. You both sit in silence, chewing, not looking at each other. It's the closest thing to a friendship you've had in weeks, or months, or ever. After work, you're walking back. When you see something strange, a girl dancing, alone, in the dust, spinning like she's made of feathers and bone. Her eyes are closed. Her mouth is smiling. It's unsettling, beautiful but wrong, like someone painting joy on a corpse. You stand and watch. She twirls until she falls. Then she laughs. Then she coughs. Then she's still. No one moves. You walk away. You reach your hut. Inside, there's a bundle of linen, not yours. You unwrap it. Bread, real bread, soft, still warm, and a handful of dried fish. You blink. You sniff. You check for strings, for traps, for curses. Nothing. Just food. You hesitate. You want to believe it's a gift, or a miracle, or repayment for something you forgot you gave. But this is Egypt. Nothing's free. You eat it anyway. The bread tastes like memory. The fish tastes like salt and hope. You chew slowly, reverently, like it might vanish if you disrespect it. Halfway through you stop, because now you're suspicious. You turn over the linen and find a symbol burned into the corner. A glyph, a mark. One you don't recognize. You stare at it too long. The shapes start to move. Or maybe your fever is back. You wrap the bread and hide it under your mat. You keep chewing. That night, you don't sleep. You lie on your back and stare at the roof. You think about who might have left the food. You think about what it cost. You think about death, not fearfully, logistically. Like, where would your body go? Who would find it? Would they burn it, bury it, leave it for the animals? Would your name be spoken or forgotten, like a mistake? You whisper your name again, just to hear it. It still doesn't sound right. Your infection is crawling. You can feel it now in your elbow, maybe your shoulder. You wonder if it'll reach your heart. You wonder what that will feel like. You wonder if your heart is even still yours. Outside, a dog howls. Not a jackal, a real dog. You haven't seen a dog in weeks. You think maybe that means something. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's just a hungry animal that smells rot. You close your eyes. You count backward from tens, then from 5, then from 1, then into the negatives. You don't stop. You thought life was stubborn. Wait until death takes its time. Your dreams don't wait for sleep anymore. They crawl out early, between breaths, between blinks. You sit upright against the wall of your hut, and you're not sure how long you've been there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Your hand, what's left of it, is now useless. The color's gone wrong entirely. Not just green, it's the color of things that used to be alive. You think you saw movement in it earlier. You think maybe something else has moved in. But that might just be the fever. You try to stand. Your legs argue. You win barely. You step outside. The air smells like someone buried fruit and forgot. Your head spins. The sun is up, but it's cold. That doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense now. You stumble toward the path, not toward the fields, not toward the canal. You don't know where you're going. You just need somewhere else. You pass the temple. There are people gathered, not worshipping, begging, crying. One woman throws herself onto the steps. A priest steps over her like she's a puddle. You keep walking. You don't have anything left to offer. Not even your name. Especially not your name. You forgot it this morning. It came back eventually, but wrong. You still don't trust it. You reach the edge of the village, reeds in silence. You sit. The wind moves the reeds in a way that makes them sound like breathing. You imagine they're alive. You imagine everything is the dirt, the sky, the itch behind your eyes. You scratch at your scalp, and a piece of your hair comes loose. You stare at it in your fingers like it betrayed you. Then you hear footsteps. Not many, just one. Familiar. You turn and see someone walking towards you. Not fast, not slow, just steady. It's your aunt. You forgot she was real. She kneels beside you, says nothing, just stares. Her eyes are clearer than you expected, calmer. She reaches out carefully and places a hand on your forehead. Her skin is warm, yours is not. Still in there, she asks. You nod. Barely. She doesn't look surprised, just tired. She takes something from her satchel. Bread. Not fresh, not soft, but real. She breaks off a piece and places it in your lap. You stare at it. You don't reach for it. She looks out at the reeds. The gods are quiet, she says, but they're still watching. You nod again. The wind shifts. She doesn't flinch. You're not the first to fall apart, she says. You won't be the last. You want to say something clever, something bitter, but you don't. You just listen. You remember your mother? She asks. You shake your head. She smiles. She used to talk too much, drove everyone mad. You smile too. It hurts your face. She keeps talking. Tells you about a time your mother danced in the river, got leeches up her leg. Didn't tell anyone for 3 days. Laughs about it. Quietly. Like she doesn't want the wind to overhear. You eat the bread. Slowly. It tastes like ash, but it feels something. A corner. A crack. She stays until the sun dips lower. Then she stands. Dust off her knees. She touches your shoulder. Her fingers linger. Don't wait too long, she says. Even the dead forget their way back. Then she's gone. You sit for a long time, watching the reeds breathe, watching the sky shift. You wonder if that moment, those words was real. If she was, if you are. You lie down in the dirt and close your eyes, just to rest, just to pretend you're not unraveling. When you wake, it's dark. The village is distant. You walk back slowly. No one sees you. No one cares. You reach your hut, your mat. You lie down and wait for dreams, but none come. You whisper your name, just once. It feels better this time. Still wrong, but better. You thought decay would take everything. Wait until your mind starts offering you comfort, and you don't know whether to believe it. You wake up to silence, but not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. The kind that makes your ears ring because the world forgot how to make noise. No birds, no voices, no goats arguing with children, just wind. You sit up and expect pain, but it doesn't arrive. Not because you're healed, because your nerves have stopped sending mail. Your hand, the dead one, looks even more wrong than before. It started to split, like old bark. The skin is cracking. There's something black underneath. You don't investigate. You wrap it again and whisper not yet. Not to anyone in particular, just to whatever still hears you. Outside the sky is clear, bright blue, no clouds. The kind of sky the scribes paint when they want to pretend life is good. It's a lie. The air smells like dust and apathy. You don't see many people. Most are inside, hiding, sleeping, dying. It's hard to tell. You walk slowly through the village, and everything feels distant. You pass a boy sitting on a rock, eating something that looks like leather. You nod. He doesn't look up. You pass the granary doors wide open, rats wobbling in and out like they've paid rent. No one's guarding anything anymore. There's nothing left worth guarding. At the temple, the priest is giving a sermon to no one. Just him standing under the arch shouting praises to the gods like a man yelling at a cliff. You stop and watch. He sweats. He shakes. His voice cracks on the word justice. You don't believe him. He doesn't either, but he keeps going. You admire the commitment. You reach the fields and find only 4 people working. The overseer is gone. So are the whips. The flax stands tall and mocking. You sit down in the dirt and pick at a clump, just to remember how it feels. Dry, splintery, like rope, pretending to be alive. You laugh a little, just a puff of air through cracked lips. Then you lie back and stare at the sky. You wonder what death looks like up close. You've seen the edges of it, in others. In their eyes, their skin, they're fading. But yours is taking its time, tiptoeing, courting you like a bashful suitor. You're starting to feel offended, like death stood you up, left you in your worst tunic with a half-rotting arm and no answers. You doze. You dream of the Nile, of bread without stones, of a cat with your aunt's voice telling you to wake up. because you're not done being miserable yet. You open your eyes and the sun has moved. Your skin is hot. Your mouth is dry. You sit up and taste iron. That's probably fine. You walk to the canal. The water is low, thicker than usual, green at the edges. You scoop a handful and let it drip through your fingers. It smells like bad choices and forgotten prayers. You don't drink it. You just sit beside it and watch your reflection. It doesn't look like you. The nose is right, but the eyes are older, hollow. Your lips move and the reflection doesn't. You blink. It does. You leave. Back at the village, you find a woman crying into a basket of spoiled dates. She sees you and says, "The gods hate us." You nod. She nods. That's the whole conversation. You keep walking. You see a man dancing. Again. Different man this time. Alone, arms out, spinning in slow circles. He's humming. Badly. People watch from their doors. No one stops him. He might be mad. Or free. Same thing now. You watch until he stumbles and falls. He doesn't get up. You don't check. In your hut, your aunt is still gone. You wonder where she went. You wonder if she ever existed. You lie down on the mat and pull your tunic over your face. It smells like everything you've been through. You try to cry. You can't. The tears aren't there. You reach under the mat and find the old bread scrap. You sniff it. Still edible. You nibble it and chew until it turns to paste. It tastes like memory and grit. Outside night comes without drama. Just absence. No sunset. Just fading. Like someone turned down the brightness on your life. You sit by the door and listens. Nothing. Not even jackals now. You whisper something. Your name may be a promise, a joke. You don't remember. You think about the scribes. How they write the names of the noble dead. How they chisel them into stone so no one forgets. You think about how you'll be buried without a name or a prayer or a tomb. Maybe not buried at all. Maybe just left. Maybe the earth will decide for you. You laugh again. A little louder. Just enough to echo. Just enough to prove you're still here. You thought the worst thing was dying. Wait until you realize you're still alive and the world has already moved on. The next morning doesn't come. Not properly. There's light, but no color. Sound, but no meaning. You open your eyes and everything feels misaligned, like you've been tilted slightly sideways and no one's told the world to fix it. You try to sit up and your body delays like it's buffering. Your left leg doesn't respond. Neither does your bad hand. You stare at them. You say move. They don't. You blink. The ceiling moves. Your stomach lurches. Something is wrong. Something newly wrong. Which frankly is impressive. You push yourself up with your good arm slowly, carefully. As if gravity might change its mind halfway. Your tunic is soaked with sweat. And not the normal kind, the sickness kind, the fever kind. You're not hot anymore. You're cold, but wet. Your body doesn't know what season it is. You shuffle to the doorway and rest your head against the frame. The clay feels cool, friendly. You whisper, "Thank you." The doorway does not reply. Still more helpful than most people. Outside the village is quieter than usual. Even the children have stopped making noise. You see a man dragging a bundle of sticks. No one helps him. You see a dog digging near a house. No one stops it. You watch for a long time, just standing there, breathing like it's your new job. Inhale, regret, exhale, denial. Then your aunt appears. Or maybe she doesn't. Maybe it's just your brain recycling memories because it's too tired to invent new hallucinations. She stands in the doorway of a hut you've never entered. She doesn't say anything. She just lifts her hand and points. Not at you, past you, behind you. You don't turn around. You don't want to see what she's pointing at. You close your eyes. When you open them, she's gone. Of course, you walk, if you can call it that, down the path toward the edge of the village. Not because you have somewhere to go. Because staying still feels dangerous. You pass a body. Real or not, you can't tell. It's covered with flies, but no one seems concerned. It might be alive. It might not. You don't stop to find out. You reach the canal. The water is darker now. Less like water, more like memory. It smells thick, oily. You crouch down, touch the surface, and feel something pull. Just slightly. Not physically, more suggestively. Like the water wants something. You pull your hand back and sit down. You stare at the reflection. And it doesn't look like you. Again, still, always, you say your name. It doesn't sound like anything. You say it again slower. The reflection says nothing. You laugh. The reflection smiles. You stop. You back away. The water ripples. You return to your hut before dusk. You know not to be out after dark. Not anymore. Not with the way things whisper. You lie down and wrap yourself in the same tunic that's been trying to become a second skin. Your good hand trembles. Your bad one is no longer bad. It's just gone. Still attached. Still present. But no longer yours. It feels foreign. Heavy. It tingles. And not the kind of tingle that says healing. The kind that says, prepare for departure. You fall asleep without meaning to. You dream of rooms full of water, of people with no faces sitting in circles chanting your name, but not the one you remember. A different one. One that scratches your ears when you hear it. You wake up with your mouth open and your eyes dry. You think you were screaming, but no sound came out. There's a bowl beside you. It wasn't there before. Inside porridge. Hot. Fresh. With herbs. You stare at it. You poke it. It steams. You eat it without thinking. Then you stop. Halfway through. And you panic. Who brought it? Why you look around? No one's there. You check outside. Nothing. You check your body. Still whole. Still cursed. You check your tongue. Still working. Still tasting. You finish the bowl anyway. Later that night, you hear a voice whisper from inside the walls. Not words, just the idea of them. The way thunder talks before lightning arrives. You lie still. You don't breathe. The voice keeps whispering. Then it sighs. Then it laughs. And then it stops. You whisper back. Please. Not yet. The silence responds. You're already late. You try to cry, but your eyes are dry again. Like everything else. The air. The ground. Your soul. You roll onto your side and curl into yourself. You're cold, but it's not a normal cold. It's the kind of cold that feels targeted. Like something is reaching through your skin, touching your bones, flipping the switches off one by one. You count them. Fingers, toes, teeth, thoughts. What's left? The last thing you remember before sleep swallows you is your name spoken by something that isn't you. And this time, it sounds right. You thought death would come suddenly. No. It checks in, unpacks, makes itself at home. You wake up and you're not sure if you slept, or if you were just quiet long enough to get mistaken for dead. The mat beneath you is soaked. From what you don't know. You don't want to know. Your mouth tastes like copper and sour grain. Your tongue is cracked. Your lips have peeled so much they feel like they've been replaced by reed paper. You sit up and the hut spins. Not dramatically, just enough to suggest you shouldn't have. You stand eventually, or rise. Float maybe. There's no clarity anymore between your muscles and your memory of having muscles. You drift outside. The sun is high. No one greets you, because there's no one left to do it. The village feels emptied, or maybe just quiet enough to feel like a ruin. You pass huts with open doors, cold fires, half-eaten food still sitting in broken bowls. You whisper hello, but even your voice sounds like it's from the wrong world. You walk to the temple because that's where the answers are supposed to be, or at least the questions that feel bigger than yours. When you arrive, you find the steps empty. The priest is gone. No incense, no chanting, just the faint scent of sandalwood and old sweat. Inside the statue, stand still, watching nothing. You sit on the cool stone and look up at the face of Osiris. His eyes are chipped. His lips are cracked. You wonder if he can still hear you. You wonder if he ever could. You say your name. Not loudly, not reverently, just softly. To test it, no answer. You try again. Still no answer. You laugh. It comes out weak and sharp, like a broken reed flute. You ask the god, "Do you remember me?" He doesn't reply. You touch the hem of his statue. The stone is smooth, unconcerned. You whisper, "I existed." The statue blinks, or maybe it doesn't. You leave. Outside, the wind is stronger. It kicks up sand that sticks to your skin. You cough, and it sounds like old papyrus tearing. You cough again. This time something red comes up. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. The stain blooms like a flower, a gift for the dirt. You wander, past the fields, past the canal, toward the edge of what people pretend is still the village. You see a figure sitting by a tree that shouldn't be there. You walk toward it. Each step feels like a favor from gravity. When you reach the tree, the figure looks up. It's your cousin, the one who vanished. He looks the same, but thinner, older, tired in that permanent way. He gestures for you to sit. You do. He says nothing, just breaks a piece of bread and hands it to you. You eat it, because that's what you do when people give you things, even if they're dead, especially if they're dead. He speaks. Finally, they'll forget you. You nod. He doesn't say it cruelly, just honestly, like he's reminding you about the weather. "They forgot me," he adds. You nod again. "Even my mother. She dreams of me but doesn't know my name." You close your eyes. He continues. "You'll be dust, then bones, then ash, then no one. That's the order." You say, "I know." You both sit in silence. The tree doesn't move. The wind does. You hear the reeds hum, like they're remembering someone else. You feel the sand pulling at your ankles, not hard, not urgent, just casually, like a friend tapping your shoulder, asking if you're ready yet. You open your eyes. Your cousin is gone, of course. You walk back. At the village's edge, you stop. You look at the sky. It's purple now, fading like you. You lie down in the dirt. No mat, no walls, just earth, just gravity. You trace your name into the dust with your remaining hand. You spell it wrong. You leave it there anyway. You close your eyes and listen. Nothing. Then a whisper, soft. Your name, said correctly, one last time. You open your mouth to reply, but you're gone before you can. You thought dying was hard. Try doing it after you've already been erased. You're not sure you woke up. You're not sure you can. There's no mat under you, no roof over you, no sand in your mouth, no sound, no light, just weightlessness, and a faint echo of a body you once owned. You reach out or think you do, but there's nothing to touch, not even air, just the outline of something that used to be skin floating, fading. You try to remember your name, not say it, remember it, but your brain stutters. Your thoughts are ghosts now, tripping over their own feet. You see flashes. Your hut half collapsed, goats chewing the roof. Your aunt humming under her breath with a blank bowl in her lap. The canal bloated with frogs and gods and disease. The field, where your blood mixed with the flax, and no one noticed. They drift by these memories like beads in a broken necklace. You try to catch one. It slips through you. There's a voice, distant, friendly, sarcastic. Yours no. Mine. Still here, huh? It says, "Didn't think you'd make it this far." It chuckles, not unkindly. "Don't worry. You're almost done." You see yourself, not the real self, the imagined one. The version who never limped, never bled, never forgot their own name. Strong, bright-eyed, wearing clean linen that wasn't scavenged from someone else's funeral. That version smiles at you. You did your best, they say, which wasn't much, but it was enough. You float, or drift, or dissolve. You feel your memories peeling off like bark. First, your family, then your voice, then your hunger. Even the pain lets go. At the very end, it's just the shape of a person, a dent in the fabric, a crease in time. And then even that starts to fade. But somewhere far behind this silence, a man in a linen kilt scratches your name into a broken wall. Not because he knew you, because he needed a word to finish his sentence. Your name becomes a filler, a placeholder, a symbol. Then the wall collapses. A scribe generations later reads a list of conscripts. He squints at the faded ink. He misreads your name, turns it into something new. He mutters it under his breath. It echoes in the air for half a second, then vanishes. Then centuries later, a child stumbles over your bone. Just one. A rib, maybe. They pick it up, laugh, and throw it in the Nile. You're gone. Not with ceremony, not with grief, with a shrug. And yet somehow you existed. You were born into mud and heat and hunger. You learned to walk on cracked earth. You spoke to gods who never answered. You bled, begged, starved, suffered, and hoped. You scratched your name into dust. And for a little while you were real. And now you're not. You thought the worst thing was dying. No, it was being forgotten. And you were completely. Except by us. Except by this story. Except right here. Right now, you were here. We saw you. We remember. And that's all there ever was. So here we are. The sun has long since set. Not the Egyptian sun. The one that cracked your skin and boiled your blood. But this one. This little globe above your modern room. Your safe bed. Your quiet night. If you're still with me. Curled beneath a blanket. Or slouched on a sofa with your eyes half closed and your mind half drained. Know this. You made it further than most. Not just through the story, but through the forgetting. Through the slow, silent erasure that claimed everyone else. They don't write down the peasants. They don't paint the ones who held the basket, or dug the ditch, or died coughing in the reeds with nothing but a curse to their name. They don't chisel the name of the woman who boiled lentils in a cracked pot, or the boy who limped for 3 years after a fever, because no one had a cure, only prayers and hope and cowspit. History doesn't care, but we do, just for tonight. You lived a life that wasn't pretty. It wasn't heroic. It wasn't even fair. It was dirt and lice and disappointment baked in the sun. It was watching your family forget you in real time. It was giving everything to gods who never blinked. It was calling out your name until even your own mouth didn't recognize it. And still you got up. Still you worked. Still you loved. Messily, quietly, with crumbs, with silence, with cracked fingers and rotting teeth, with one working hand and a prayer you only half believed in. That is not nothing. That is everything. Because in the end you were human, and that's the part that matters. Not the tombs, not the crowns, not the statues with perfect eyebrows and gold leaf smiles, but you, the dirt under the nail of history, the laugh in the dark, the moment someone somewhere did not die alone because you were there, and now you're here again, and I'm still talking to you. You who maybe just pressed pause on a busy day, you who wanted something to fall asleep to, but instead fell into a different version of yourself, one with rough sandals and a hand that never healed. You who now carry a name that wasn't remembered but still existed. You who have this moment here in the soft hum of modern safety. To do something that they never could breathe without fear. So let's breathe together. In, out. You are not in the hut anymore. You are not in the dirt. You are not starving or crawling or scratching your name into the side of a clay bowl no one ever found. You're here. You're still here. And I remember you. Even if your name was lost to stone. Even if your bones were swallowed by the Nile. Even if your story never made it onto the papyrus scrolls of kings and priests, you were worth remembering. And now you've been remembered. For real. By someone who didn't need proof. By someone who just cared. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's the quiet magic. That memory doesn't need monuments. It just needs witnesses. And tonight, you were one. You bore witness to a soul nobody wrote down. You gave breath to a name history erased. You made a ghost real again. And in doing so, you gave yourself permission to rest, to stop running, to stop suffering, to let go of the guilt for being alive when others weren't. You don't have to fix the past. You just have to hold it, gently, like a cracked pot in your hands, like a bowl of lentils you're about to share, like a name you refuse to forget. You thought survival was about strength. No, it was about being seen. And now you are, and now so were they. So now we come to the end. Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind with drums or chariots or gods descending from the heavens to place a feather on your chest. Just a quiet one. The kind you earn after too many days of too little. The kind that feels more like a sigh than a sentence. You've been walking through dust and ruin for what feels like an eternity. And now, at last, you can sit. Not because it's over, but because you're allowed to. This was never a story about greatness. It was never about rising above your station or conquering your fear. It wasn't even about survival, really. Not in the way we like to tell it. No, this was about endurance, about breath, about taking one more step after your muscles begged you to stop. It was about the way your hand curled around a cracked bowl like it mattered, the way your name still whispered through the reeds long after your bones were forgotten. You weren't special. You were real, and real was more than enough. The night is cooler now. Wherever you are, whether you're lying in bed with soft sheets or slouched in a chair in the quiet glow of a screen, whether your mind is still in ancient Egypt or gently returning to your own world, blinking, adjusting, remembering who you are, you're still with me, and I'm still here, and that's enough. Dim the lights, close your eyes, maybe turn the fan on low. Let it mimic the Nile breeze you never got to feel. Let the silence be kind this time. Let it hold you like the gods never did. You've earned that. You've earned rest. You've earned gentleness. Let go of the lice, the rot, the hunger. Let go of the panic, of losing your name, of being forgotten, of falling into a pit no one bothers to mark. You are here. You are known. Not by the kings, not by the scribes, but by the only person who matters in this moment, you. You carried someone else's pain for a while. You stepped into another's skin. You lived their misery, their silence, their small rebellions. And now it's time to return to your own breath, your own bed, your own name. Let the dirt fall away. Let the scratchy wool melt off your shoulders. Let your hand, yes, even the wrong one, loosen. Let your mind unfurl not in fear but in softness. The gods are quiet now. The jackals have moved on. The sun has nothing left to burn. There's nothing chasing you. There's nothing left to prove. Just you and sleep. That sacred ritual even pharaohs couldn't master. That little mercy the afterlife couldn't steal. You don't need a tomb. You don't need an offering. You don't even need to remember what happened anymore. Just that you were here. You mattered. You lasted longer than you were supposed to. That's enough. So breathe. In, out. And if your thoughts come, let them. If your memories rise, wave to them. If your heart aches, wrap it gently in linen and say shh. Later, you're safe now. You can rest. You can sleep. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll dream of a warm day along the Nile, where your belly is full, your hands are clean, and someone says your name not because they want something, not because they're cursing you, but just to say hello, just to say I remember. Good night, my friend. You were loved. You are loved. You will be again. Thank you for listening to the unseen struggles of ancient Egypt. If you're still awake, thank you for walking this path. If you've already drifted off, then maybe that's the kindest ending of all. Now go gently, and tomorrow we remember someone else, together. And if you're still here with me, awake barely, maybe stretching under the covers, maybe staring at the ceiling with sleep hovering just beyond reach, thank you for staying. Thank you for remembering, for witnessing. If this story held you, haunted you, or maybe even made you laugh softly at the sheer absurdity of survival in sandals with no socks. Consider leaving a quiet mark of your own, a like, a comment a little. I listened, even if it's just a whisper typed at 2A. Mom, tell me when you listened. What moment stuck? Or just say hello. I'd like that. We all want to be remembered, even if just for a moment, even if just here. And if you'd like to walk through another forgotten past with me, you know what to do. Subscribe, follow, save this for a night. When the world feels loud and sleep feels far away, there's always another ancient disaster waiting. But for now, rest. You've earned it. We both have. Good night.